Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Excellency Light League. I am your play-by-play caster, Zephyr, joined again by the lovely color caster, Bubby, and we've got a great series of games for you here tonight. To start things off, we've got Degenerates Reform taking on Divine Ascension Obsidian.
Yeah, both of these are pretty similar teams as far as positioning goes in the roster. With 3 wins and 5 losses on Degenerate Reformed and 5 wins and 4 losses on Divine Ascension Obsidian, we are going to have a very close game, I would like to believe.
I would say so. They're definitely in the standings in a very similar situation. Now, granted, because of last week, there's a lot of games that have not really been scheduled or played out to their fullest. Notably, we're waiting on Redefy and Degenerates Reform to play out their series. But additionally, also, we still have to see Darkside play against Divine Ascension Obsidian. So in terms of what they're available, we don't actually have the full picture ahead of us yet. But I will say both of them have been struggling these last couple weeks. Divine Ascension Obsidian looks a little bit better, but after the first couple, the forfeits that we saw from Degenerates Reformed at the very, very beginning here in week 1, they definitely have played back into it. Because remember, they had to surrender 4 games straight.
That's very true. That's very true.
That being said, Pro Draft has begun here. Divine Ascension Obsidian coming right out of the gate, focusing on Degenerates Reformed bot lane immediately. That's Senna and, my apologies, Seraphine coming out immediately.
Yeah, some very necessary bans when you're on red side. No matter what team you're playing against, no matter if they play it at all, if you're on red side and you let Seraphine through, because it's playable mid, AD carry, and support, someone on the team is always going to be able to play it at least, subpar. And a subpar Seraphine is still something you never want to let through, at least on the current patch.
I feel like this is like a recurring theme for you, Bubby. I feel like when I hear the word Seraphine, it's always followed by the set of words "don't want to let through." I don't think she's that terrible. I mean, terrible to deal with, but I definitely has some strengths that you want to watch out for. I would agree to a certain level.
I want to actually see if maybe by next week we can get the list of win rate for Seraphine between all 3 tiers that we run, because there's no way it's smaller than like a 55 to 60% win rate. She is absolutely insane. So yeah, you're going to hear me say every single week, every single time, it's a necessary ban until you can prove otherwise. That Seraphine gets through multiple times. Yeah, and you can't even really prove it because it's always banned. I think it's necessary. Going into the actual picks and bans of the match, we do get Kai'Sa first picked, countered by that Misfortune Leona that she does struggle quite a bit with in laning phase and even later in the game in team fights. Thresh is a nice counter pick to even that one out, neutral out the lane, and Elise is going to get picked up. First jungle grab coming out from Degenerates, going for that early game dominance, counterpicked by a nice Hecarim.
And just one of the notable things here, the bans for Degenerates Reform have been removed, the first 3 here, due to some prior restrictions. So that's why we're seeing such strength come out from Divine Ascension Obsidian. That could be kind of the nail in the coffin for game 1 here, because they're letting slide through the aggressive tendencies of a Divine Ascension Obsidian that they like to play around. So early pressure galore has definitely come through here. So I'm curious where they're going to make that up in the mid to top lane with these last resounding bans. Maybe shore up some of the weakness that slipped.
Yeah, there is a little bit of a mind game that is possible here from Degenerates Reformed. If going into this, they know they had to forfeit those first 3 bans, then they can expect Divine Ascension Obsidian to be playing what their priority picks would be. If Misfortune is a must-have for their team, then they would be able to go and picking the Kai'Sa, saying, we know it's probably going to be Misfortune and an aggressive support that we're used to seeing, comboing with it, probably the Leona. And they already had the Thresh in mind. Same thing with Elise. If you have something that you want to ban out from the enemy team, you have to give up that ban and then can't ban it out because of that reason. You then know they're going to pick it, and you can draft around it with that in mind.
Right. And at this point, they're just taking some of the greatest strengths that Divine Ascension has from Coltonson and Void, respectively, with that Vel'Koz and Gnar. still so many great options available, especially if you're going to be looking to play this aggressive. I'd like something a bit more front forward, as well as some AP damage to come through in that mid lane on Void. We'll have to see what they pick to solidify that out. But either way, that's kind of the route I'm looking for on that one.
Yeah, Viego and Victor is going to get banned out. Both of those being targeted in the mid lane specifically. Elise has already showed. Viego top hasn't has nearly as much success as jungle and mid have, so really kind of putting some pressure, and they're going to grab that Gragas for the flex. I'm almost positive that's going to go into top lane. It's still possible to run Gragas mid. He does have some very solid AoE AP scaling abilities on all 4 of his abilities are AoE, so still viable, but I imagine that will go into the top side.
Well, at this point, it could go anywhere because they've got to play off of the flex now, and they get the counter pick no matter what. So it's up to Divine Ascension Obsidian where they want to throw that one. Now, granted, the skill level might be a bit different, but either way, more scaling potential from Degenerates Reform. Definitely peering towards that mid to late game, especially if they lock in this Gangplank to secure that one. The Nico already a great source of mixed damage to give this team kind of a well-rounded source of pressure.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit scary going into the late game when you have a Hecarim, you have a Gragas, you have a Leona. Any of them get onto you, the rest can do the same. And when your front line consists of a reasonably tanky Thresh, reasonably tanky Elise, and not usually so tanky Gangplank, it's a little bit scary. If they turn, it might be a little bit more advantageous than if they try and engage. But I think Degenerates Reform has picked a very solid collapse pick comp. And Divine Ascension Obsidian securing that Corki in the mid lane will be going for a hard collapse / dive comp.
Right. And at this point, they've shored up the weaknesses that I was looking for. I don't think they're as how would I say this? There's not as much protection as I would like to see on some of these major carries. They do have that hard engage, and while you can play off some of the peel when you look at Leona, most of these general conditions are going to be on the forward, like you said, that dive, that pressure. So if you have Elise get the great cocoon, if you have Kai'Sa get deep into that backline with the killer instinct, and you're playing around the appropriate windows from Divine Ascension Obsidian, what are you going to do, especially if they're scaled to the point where they will perform and will secure those kills?
It just depends on the gold value at that point in time.
Right.
Depends on who's fed, honestly.
Who took
so yeah,
early?
this is yeah. So this is kind of a coin flip for both teams. I can't really say I'm leaning any way in draft particularly here. And then the skill of these teams is yet to be seen from the blue side on Degenerates Reformed, as we haven't seen a lot of these picks come out. We haven't seen the style of comp be super popular in Light League just yet. Not a lot of pick / catch comps coming in. It's mostly been a lot of collapse, hard engage, and dive comps. So maybe they've got it practiced up really well. Divine Ascension Obsidian might not have a lot of practice against it. So it's really going to depend on how the early game plays out. And with the Ghost Hecarim we're used to seeing and the Elise we're not so used to seeing, both very strong early game gankers, we're going to see the laning phase turn the tides a lot for whichever team can be more successful.
Well, at that point, Bubby, I kind of draw it back to those early set of bans that we discussed. You know, right now, of course, they're throwing that Aatrox around, whatever, trash just to move it along. But as it stood, they let slip through some of the greatest early pressure devices that Divine Ascension Obsidian has been known to play around, their bot and jungle, respectively. And the thing is, I don't care who you are. Kai'Sa, Nico, Gangplank, these are not champions that are not going to be outwardly perfection, right from the get-go. If Divine Ascension Obsidian can make something happen within those first 10 minutes, I do see a very hard and uphill battle for Degenerates Reform, because in most cases, it's going to be too just... you just can't beat that damage, man. You just can't beat. Let me not beat around the bush about it anymore. You just can't beat that damage.
Yeah, and the team fighting capability for sure. One of the nice things with that Gangplank pick against the Gragas is, one, it's safe in case that Gragas goes mid against most other top laners that Coltonson could have grabbed. But specifically the Gangplank versus Gragas matchup between Hardstuck and Coltonson is going to be Gragas' sustain from his passive, healing 8% of his maximum health every about 8 to 12 seconds based on his level. When he uses an ability, keeps him in lane. His mana costs are low, so he sustains forever. If he goes a corrupting potion, he's actually ending up taking all of your harass and keeping you in lane, slowly chunking you down. Gangplank is able to deal with that very easily. The grass proc with the Q spam, barrel spam, wave shove, And then let's say at any point in time, there is that huge early game dominance with Baby Claps' Misfortune, Divine X's Leona, Latin Trap's Hecarim in this bottom side where it just says there's no way you can contest us. Gragas holds Gangplank in lane, so he can't teleport in. Well, you have that Cannon Barrage to still show up and be half a champion in that team fight.
And just to kind of pull away from the general picture of this team fight, I want to discuss these teams as a whole for a second. Degenerates Reformed, I was just kind of peering back and looking at their official standings from the weeks prior, really have only been matched up around the lower end of the bracket here. So we're talking from basically Shadowblade Slash to what was Merciless on to my apologies, I'm losing it, Dark Side, right? And these are not teams that are currently, in what we look at right now, performing on the upper echelon of the league, right? They haven't tackled Redefy, they haven't tackled Florida State, they had to surrender that one out. And when they went up against, sister Degenerate Esports, they definitely did not come out on top of that one. So as a result, this team definitely seems like it's very solid middle of the pack, but the results, even against some of these other teams who are on the lower side, has not been too daunting. They go either a tie or they eke out with a win occasionally. Or no, they've actually lost across the board in that sense.
Yeah, knowing that that's the position they're standing in, this is definitely a much more impactful match that they're going to be playing. Being able to come out with, let's say, even a 1-for-1 or 2-0 in this matchup versus one of the higher echelon teams, a defined Ascension Obsidian. Definitely not the Redefy or Florida State that we've seen in the last few weeks. But if they do put a nice foot forward going into these two games, it could help in the next weeks coming to give them a better standing, a better, I guess, presence to the other teams and kind of turn it around. It's never too late in the middle of a split or playoff to kind of become that team that's, hey, we're not that worried. They're 6th place. 3 weeks later, oh, they're 4th, they're 3rd place. They figured it out. They found their way and they brought it around. So we'll just have to go into this game seeing what they can pull out, what they can show us, and what they can prove to themselves and everybody else.
So at that point, we'll leave it up to them whether they're going to be able to prove this one out, or maybe Divine Ascension Obsidian keeps the strength going for and the train rolling here in the Light League. Either way, we're going to be going towards that break. We're going to be making our way towards the Rift as soon as we can. So we're going to be right back as we go through this slow loading period. Stay tuned. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Excellency Light League. If you're just joining us, we're going to be taking you through the first game of the first series here between Divine Ascension Obsidian versus Degenerates Reformed. I'm your play-by-play caster, Zephyr, and I'm joined by the lovely Coach of Bubby as my color.
Thank you for the introduction. I like how you always call me lovely. It's such a good introduction.
It's my sign-on. It's a compliment. It's a garnered attention of love and affection. I want us to have a good time here together tonight, Bubby. I don't want to call you my terrible color caster that I just have to work with here on Light League, all right?
Oh no, I'm being 100% serious. It's nice every time you call me lovely. It's makes me blush a little bit, cheeks turn red and rosy, but it is going to be a lovely experience going into the game one. Red team does decide to stack in that bush in case of an invade. We do have Thresh and Elise with the Nico. Just some very solid invade potential. They decide just to do the 5-point Degenerates, realizing that they do have the invade potential, but it's almost never safe to go up against a Corky Misfortune Leona level 1. So right. Pretty much just evens that out, and both junglers are going to start opposite sides of the map on their blue buffs.
Now, notably, though, we do see a lot of pressure come in there from Divine XZ to get that early warning, and it's completely spotted out, across the board. They know that pressure was put in to the bottom red side here of Degenerates Reformed. So at this point, you can almost even assume the positioning on Latin just based off that play alone, right? Especially with the lag time on getting to that bot lane. So, in my personal opinion, this lovely birthday of a jungler over here has a lot of information to play around on Elise now.
Yeah, they do get some information from the Elise knowing that they're not passing by Raptors. So Latin Trap's going to start on a little bit of a positive note as well. It's not just a one-sided trade of knowledge. Knowing that they don't pass by a jungle camp is as much knowledge as they do pass by a jungle camp and clear it if you're proactively thinking about it. We see a lot of dominance in bottom side from Divine Ascension with the Leona and the Misfortune. So it's a little bit surprising that Hecarim is going to path top side. Coltonson has been a star player on this team before. They have a lot of chain CC. Goes from Hecarim. Could just be looking for that super easy first blood against Hard Stuck Brothers Gangplank.
Yes, absolutely. And he's definitely in the position where that could come to fruition there. I'm curious if that ward was able to pick up I am going to fail to find a really appropriate name to call him, but 05 is what we're going to be running with. So for anyone that asks, the junglers 05 as the time states. But either way, curious if he was able to get the vision on that and they have any sense of a warning here. Fruit Loops and Fox are playing very, very forward, so ganking the bot lane, not really a feasible thing.
Yeah, I do believe Elise's name is birthday. Is supposed to be
really
May 19th, 1997. I think that's because it's 05. I was looking at it too, and I was thinking, 05. Like, okay, I kind of jive with 05. It sounds pretty good. And then I'm looking at it like, what's 1997? I think 05 is it's the beginning of the name. So just saying 05. I don't want to say
we're deliberating
May 1997 in the middle of a team fight landed a cocoon or anything too hasty, but. Speaking of that jungler, they are looking for the dive or the gank in this bottom side, looking for some kind of play, whatever they can get. They do have
hold
the first
thought on that jungler. Here we got Latin Trap coming in the mid lane. Void's already looking pretty low. They get the push on to Crimavale, but Void taken out by the auto before he finally goes down. He does secure that first blood in his favor.
Yeah, the Corky started with a tier. He's just looking to scale. The Doran's Ring start for Nico is specifically the item difference. Got her that first blood. If Corky had gone for the tier, had gone for a Doran's Blade, would have had the health to survive that. So, it's one of those things where you should be a little bit more accepting that you start the tier, so you do need to be a bit more careful. But a lot of kudos to Crimavale. Flashes from Thresh coming out.
Beautiful. Into the play, into birthday. They're going to get that stun in the pressure of the passive, giving that kill over to the Elise there. Now we do have Latin Trap on the side here. He kind of postures it out, though, and he doesn't decide to go for any further claps, knowing that Baby Claps just isn't there to pump out the damage.
Yeah, level 5 advantage for Hecarim to Elise. They could have done that 2v3 in my opinion. Leona still has Ignite and Flash, but Hecarim was down Ghost, didn't have a true way to go in. And even after that gank being successful, getting the kill onto Elise, I don't think that's a fair trade for her to be down half of Hecarim's CS after the jungle changes, make jungling so much harder, make experience so much more meaningful.
Right,
This
and
might be
remember,
9 minutes when Elise hits level 6 versus 7.5 for Hecarim.
wow. That is quite the difference. But I will say Latin Trap did also pick up that kill there. So the goal advantage on top of the additional CS play around. He's definitely in a position to make plays happen early now. And we do see him go for the return here. He's cleared division on the top side of this mid lane. Crimvale going to be using that pop lock. Immediately does get the stun off onto Latin and Void. No one can really pump out that damage. And as a result, the trade actually goes in favor of Crimvale.
Yeah, I think Corky might be rocking arcade Corky, but I think Zephyr's rocking an arcade skin himself because he's getting a little bit 8-bit on us, but he is definitely true on that one. Hecarim going to be level 6 very soon. Nico not having flash, not having ult. We might see a repeat gank. Bottom lane being so low in levels with the Leona, might see a play there. We is going to possibly get a catch out on Leona.
Okay. Good cocoon into the stun there, but that peel is just enough of play to play around that. Birthday goes up with the repel as a stun prevents Latin from securing it. Crimvale gets the return onto Divine XZ there, and now Fox Zero finally picking up a kill for Kai'Sa in response. A beautiful collapse with a great rotation from mid and jungle there.
Yeah, we talked about Degenerates Reformed having a little bit of a weaker early game. Divine Obsessions getting the 3 picks they wanted, not getting banned out, and yet they're the ones coming out ahead right now in this early game.
Right, and look at that, a great hook into Baby Claps there. He's going to be trying to find that kill as the flash comes out from Birthday there. Fox Zero, another wonderful kill on this Kai'Sa.
Yeah, the flash from Elise was extremely necessary. Baby Claps made the best decision that they could have in that period of time. When you get hooked by a Thresh as a player, your reactions are usually not to walk into the enemy team, into the fray. It's usually just to panic, use your Make It Rain, and try and run away. But just looked death straight in the face, looked at Elise and said, I am not afraid of you. You're not a Black Widow. You're a daddy long leg. You can't bite me. Forces that flash away. And now being a just about level 6 Hecarim to a still not level 5 yet now level 6 Hecarim to a still not even level 5 Elise being flashless. Hecarim has Ghost Flash up. This is going to be huge in Latin Trap's favor.
I would agree, but at the same time here, the game is telling a different story here. Degenerates Reform sitting 5-1 with the 2K gold leads in their favor. For a team that was supposed to lead out here early against Divine Ascension, like we discussed in the draft, they're actually finding a lot of success. So the mid game now, as we move forward, it's going to look a lot stronger for them. And what was an early, proving point for Divine Ascension Obsidian is no longer in their favor. So bit of an interesting sub point to discuss, especially since they were able to get, 3 supreme picks for themselves without those bans in the way.
Yeah, I think a big point here is that they are running that pick comp and they have been getting the picks. The cocoons are landing, the thresh hooks are landing.
The roots on the Void.
Yeah, roots from Nico have been landing. So when you run a pick comp, you say, yeah, we lose the 5v5, lose the 4v4, we lose the all-ins, we lose if we get collapsed on. Well, Crimvale's Pop Blossom is more than enough to deter a hard collapse if it's not from a good position. Ooh. And the rest of the picks have been finding success.
Wow, speaking of that hard collapse, we saw that Flake come on to Latin Trap there, and he did have to use Onslaught of Shadows to make his way out of that fight. Now, they do know the positioning right around the rift there. Ooh, Heartstock Brother taking a good chunk of damage as Coltonson plays well around that explosive casket. Going to be autoing this one out. And now Latin Trap coming up towards the top side. Yeah, just a little bit of a little steal on that last one there.
Yeah, it's when you're playing Gragas, you're kind of just playing old Ornn duty.
All right, Colton with the flash, the knock up into the root with the cocoon stun. There's the Mega Pop Blossom getting the stun and the kill onto Latin Trap. Now Colton's son going to be retreating back into his jungle there. Notably this entire time, though, Fox Zero alone in the bot lane.
Yeah, the only way to neutralize this out as Divine is to dive this Kai'Sa. She doesn't have cleanse up. It's coming up in like 5 seconds, so you missed your window. They're probably trying to hit level 6, but it's too late now. If you go for a dive against the Kai'Sa who's got Killer Instinct, Cleanse, and Flash under turret, you're just going to end up giving her a kill. So they missed that window. They're looking for it now. The care package is available on Corky, but they're gonna just go top anyways and try and get another kill.
Straight into the cannon barrage off that cocoon. He's just pumping out the damage available. He's gonna be tanking the turret and uses the repel to juggle it so well. Beautiful.
Yeah, it was very methodical on that dive. We see the Elise, the dives early. They're looking for their position. They go for it against Flute
Solar
Loops.
Flare. Little bit of a late pairing on the ultimates, and Void came in just far too late, and as a result, they really didn't find anything off that Bubby. Oh, there's that killer instinct. Fox gonna be interrupted by that heal there, and of course the peel pressure from Divine, but my lord, he's putting out the pressure that we might be seeing later, hopefully.
Yeah, they put all of their CC onto Flute Loops. He may not have even needed to flash to get out of that one. If they have tried for Vox Zero, I think would have gone even worse. They were so split on that dive. We didn't get a meaningful care package from Void coming in to section anything off. Divine didn't commit into that dive enough. Baby Claps has to burn the heal to get out, and really kind of falling apart on this hard collapse comp. Not really hard collapsing, but the picks just keep landing from Degenerates. So it's a battle of, yeah, maybe they got the picks they wanted, but if they're not playing the comp correctly versus Degenerates, who is, the gold will fall in Degenerates' lap.
Exactly. So for what was that first 10-minute spree where we said, okay, this is where Divine Ascension really pushes it forward, it hasn't come to fruition. Now, granted, it's going to be an even mid-game. You still have to play it very, very well if you are Degenerates Esports, or my apologies, Degenerates Reformed, to make the plays happen here. So we'll have to wait and see, especially as Dragon becomes a bit more contestable and Baron's on the map.
Yeah, if they're able to get into objectives early with their team comp, it will be a bit more favorable. One of the weaknesses of running a pick style team comp is that you are almost always lower in damage but higher in burst. So yeah, Kaisa can just blow somebody away off a Thresh Hook, off a Nico Snare. But once that's all said and done, Corky is still just blasting you away with these crazy high damage auto attacks on top of his low cooldown abilities. You have Misfortune with a massive ultimate.
Wow, look at that burst on to Hardstuck Brother there, but I think he's going to be fine, especially with playing around those barrels.
Speaking of massive high damaging ultimate, Coltonson does not have one this game.
Oh, I know who does though. Solar Flare coming out there from Divine X into the Zenith with that onslaught to get an instant shutdown. Now Crimvale in a poor position, going to be trying to find a kill on Void before he might go out here. Good stun to play off of the burst of the Q, but Baby Claps and Latin are here, but that's a double root in response. Now Crimvale trying to get away, but he's going to be falling to the auto there of Baby Claps. It's a 2-for-1. Finally, something in the favor of Divine Ascension.
The gold value between them didn't change because of the turret plating that Kaisa was able to get, the extra CS advantage that she has now. And Drake already was taken, so it's more neutralizing your losses than it was gaining an advantage. But if the match goes on long enough, like you said before, Divine will have an advantage.
Oh my lord, that was a close Zenith blade. Either way, I agree with you on that one. I can see them coming through back into this. One thing to play off of a note there was that Degenerates Reformed very far forward, almost a little bit of an ego to their playstyle, going deep into the blue jungle there of Divine, pressuring it out even before mid-turret has even fallen. So make more mistakes like that, and you can start seeing that gold shift back into the favor of Divine, especially since this mid-game is still playable for them.
Yeah, 05 has been playing really well. We see the difference this time from last time. Goes in with Sweeper, drops a control ward down. Hasn't made that mistake so far up until this last fight. I don't think we're going to see Elise making the same mistake again, already correcting it. So that might be almost a good quote-unquote throw to make in the early game before it's too late and it becomes a much bigger deal in the late game. If you kind of say, okay, they have really good vision. We see that they can make picks too with their comp. You get on top of it earlier in the match.
Oh, Solar Flare into a teleport from Coltonson as Latin Trap is in as well. They get the pushback on to Flute Loops. He uses the Flay to extend some time out before Coltonson does pull that kill away though. Great rotation there from Divine.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Super nice teleport onto that board.
Another rotation, Bubby. Latin deep into the back, gets the push onto Crimvale, gets the slow. Now there's the plot boss. I'm going to be trying to find the kill on Void, but he's learned from his mistake, and Colton picks up another one with the explosive casket.
I think everybody in this match is just learning left and right. Elise gets better about the vision, starts clearing out way more, starts using that sweeper and placing control wards. At the same time, all of Divine Ascension is saying, you're counter jungling us, you're walking in our jungle, we're going to have wards everywhere now. And it's from the first 10 minutes of the game to these last 5 minutes, the level of map awareness and ward positioning has like tripled.
Right. You see a lot of great rotations now coming out, both teams respectively, but Divine Ascension especially pulling back into their favor here, playing a lot around Latin and Colton now that they feel like they're in a better position to make those plays. So, of course, you see most of the pressure absorbed and those kills on top of them as it stands.
Yeah, they still have a strong presence on the pick, but as the match goes on longer, people start to group up more. It's going to be harder to get. Collapses will become easier. Gragas is now pretty big. Corki still unfortunately hasn't been able to grab a single one of those kills, but isn't really falling too far behind in CS to his alternative. I do want to highlight the CS difference from the Elise to the Hecarim that started from the beginning of the game till now. Even counter jungling away this blue buff from Elise, a soon to be level 11 Hecarim, Elise just turning level 8. So the Baron calls are going to be really hard to make. Even Drake's, the smite steal pressure is so risky that even with a pick comp, if they're not picking off Hecarim, they really can't go for any true objectives safely.
Exactly, and at this point, it brings to question because, hold the thought. No, never mind. It was Liliana. Who cares about that? You never care. Either way, to pull back, it's curious. Right? You've got a wonderful play from 05 coming through on this Elise, managing to secure these kills, play off the cocoons, get the pressure onto every individual lane, respectively, but the XP isn't there due to the lack of clear pacing, right? Versus Latin Trap, who has been reasonably successful, some would argue maybe not as successful as 05, but still is managing those levels far better. So I think the punishment of all of that for 05 might be seen here at this Dragon.
Yeah, this is going to be the first official 5v5 from both teams, as Red has bunkered into the pit, does have a little bit of vision advantage. Both teams are going to be fishing. Ooh, looks like the fight's about to break out.
Root there, but the response from Colton, that's a great slow pit for the slow into the Population. Killer instinct from Fox Zero's deep in the backline onto Baby Claps. He manages to pick that kill up before going down to Void. They turn around, there's a double stun with the burst from Crimvale to take down Colton, and wow! Beautiful burst on top of it as they go one by one, playing off of the barrel plucks from Heartstock Boada. Now the stun playing off onto Void there. He's going to launch away, but the repel follows anyways for another ace and 3 kills on a Heartstock brother.
I don't have my camera on screen right now, but I was flinching the entire fight, biting my tongue. I had no idea how the flow of that fight was going to go.
It was weird.
Yeah, it was very abstract. I mean, it looked so promising from Crimvale with the Pop Blossom. Only ended up hitting, I believe, either Hecarim or Gragas. Everybody else got out. You have Fox Zero diving in the backline, picking up the kill on Baby Claps. It looks so promising. Corki flashes over the wall. Boom, you're dead. Okay, it's a 4v1. Oh, wait a second. Corki gets 1 kill, looking like he's going to get 2, maybe 3. Drake's about to kill Crimvale's like, oh no. But they're able to squeak that one out just barely. And I would say it was well deserved. Nicely played.
I will say, if we look at it from a more objective standpoint, Baby Claps is out of the fight immediately from the pressure from Fox Zero. And at the same time, Void goes deep into his own backline to make sure that Fox Zero dies. At that point, everybody, Crimvale, 05, Heartstuck Brother, Fruit Loops, are all willing to take a 3v4 at that moment. And that's where we saw that fight. My apologies, definitely turn around.
Yeah, in that same manner, you have to respect that Baby Claps did fall at the start of the fight without getting the bullet time. So if Degenerates barely won that fight that was so close that I was on the edge of my seat, quite literally, you know, what happens next time if they can't catch out that misfortune as nicely?
We'll have to wait and see. Now Flute Loops there. Ooh, misses the hook, but the teleport's going to come in anyways. The slow from the Solar Flare into the Zenith Blade. The box is down to pull off the slow, but Coltonson is uninterested. Tries to go for Fox here and uses the cask as a result. And the stuns and damage, not quite taking out Flute Loops there. We do see Heartstuck Brother come in from the teleport, but Latin Trap and Void off a great rotation take him down immediately.
Woo, that was a nice rotation by Divine.
Yes.
Really using these teleports well. I mean, Gangplank matched the Gragas teleport. Gragas did kind of end up not really doing a whole lot. He kind of zoned out Fox Zero from the fight while they tried to kill Flute Loops, but a really nice flash, some good side steps, ultimates, and plays got him out at the last second. So really, Heartstuck Brother could have just stayed, shoved out mid lane, and gotten a CS advantage, gotten a turret, and not showing up would have prevented any deaths from happening. So a really nice rotation attempt, but when you don't have that front line that we pointed out, Thresh really not a true front line, at least not a true front line. Gangplank, as we just saw, certainly not a true front line compared to Hecarim, Gragas, or Leona. Any fight you get into, one of your teammates is going to be super squishy, is going to be super susceptible to that burst, to getting locked down. And the two tanks on the team were the ones who, you know, blew Hardstuck away through his Immortal Shield bow.
Right. At that point, I will say, though, the teleport came through from Heartstuck Brother, and he didn't quite have the perception of the location of Void and Latin Trap. I mean, who is he to understand that all 5 members of Divine Ascension Obsidian can be bot lane at the exact same time? I mean, that's just crazy, man.
Hey, if you
dream it, you can believe it, Bubby. That's what I say, man.
I'm a little bit stumped trying to come up with a logical reason you would just know that's coming, but we can just pretend that there's a logical reason. You can just know a play that like that is coming. It does go to point out that Divine Ascension Obsidian is really putting down some strong macro so far. They said, hey, we're getting caught out. We're going to stop doing that. Hey, we're losing in the bottom side. We're going to stop doing that. We're losing Drake. We're going to
losing there.
Almost stop doing that.
Almost. He actually gets out. Okay, never mind. Never mind.
Yeah, super nice flash by Grimvale, puts him behind the Hecarim charge, so ends up knocking him away pretty safely. Both teams
going back. Whoa, that blast cone's a bit rough there. The pop awesome play into it does get the double stun off. They turn their attention to Latin Trap, but a great solar flare dissuades most of that pressure there. 05's looking for the pressure on Divine. X here uses that repel, but he's not going to find the attachment. Grimvale, but Coltonson is coming back, and Baby Clap the side teleport. There's gonna be another 5-man up on the top side. Beautiful job as we do see them launch massive stuns. Void is ripping through Crim Veil. Now trying to make the escape. That box doing dissuade and slow, but Coltonson's up. He can't quite find the damage. Not running, but 1 kill is in favor. But look at that. Degenerates reform, learn from the mistakes, and they continue to push with Heartstuck Brother in the and get a turret as a result.
I would have to agree with about 80% of what I was able to hear from that one, but you do make a very good point. The rotations are just solid. Got to fix that microphone, my man. I'm telling you, you're looking more and more like Corky every single team fight coming out here using that 8-bit arcade skin. The team fight is really starting to show. The hard engage, the hard collapse. We still have a gold advantage on Degenerates. They get another pick.
Oh, hard stuck. Poor guy. Like you said, another pick. I mean, that's all I can summarize for that one.
Yeah, they're trying to.
Hey, that's exactly the discussion we had earlier about the XP lead right there. How are you gonna win the smite battle when you're 2 levels down?
The answer is there is no way. Hecarim got a borderline perfect smite on that one. Elise with a beautiful repel in. Thresh Lantern to pull her out. It was super safe, but you're down, 100 plus damage. You can't really do it. Hecarim just autos with the Divine Sunder at the same time he smites, gets that 900 damage. Execute on Drake, and Elise is looking at a 680 damage smite, so 200 300 damage behind the mark. It's just too hard. It was really well coordinated. That's something that we don't see a lot with Thresh and almost any junglers, is that Lantern smite steal synergy where the jungler could just go in with blast plan and then jump back out. But if Elise wasn't at this huge CS deficit of 45 CS that she's been at this whole game, growing as the match goes on, that probably would have been soul for Degenerates.
Exactly. Either way, a good soul in their favor could play around that, but it's going to get harder and harder to contest those dragons as time goes on. And Divine Ascension Obsidian plays these team fights very, very well. You know, like you said with the pick comp very early, it's burst centralized off of periodic windows, right? If you don't get the immediate kill, what are you going to do?
Ooh, you're gonna get collapsed on like
Divine
this.
Ascension's gonna do. Yep, big collapse. Turn around. Crimvale tries to go into that back line there. Oh, my apologies. I was even confused by that clone. Either way, 0-5 now in a poor position as Void picks up that one. The root in the back line, but not before Heartsuck Brother. Gonna get Zenith Blade into the stun there. He's trying to get away, but Coltonson finds his response. Now Fox Zero there in the bot lane, getting the push as he gets the response with the kill. They're gonna be continuing this into the turret and inhib, I believe. Looks like Crimvale gonna try to stop these backs as much as possible, but gets the initial one on the Latin Trap, but it's not enough to stop that turret from going down.
Yeah, just Hecarim without ult. They could have just rushed this inhib out if they played it correctly. Fox still has cleanse, doesn't really do much against Hecarim, but I would say that's a reasonably fair trade. It's 2 kills for an open inhib turret on the bot side of the map, and if you're not really able to win team fights, taking these trades is kind of your strategic net bleeding you were talking about, where it's like, how little can we bleed going into this, right? Now that we're in the mid game, now that we're in the late game, we've lost our advantage. Pick has become dramatically harder to get off. We lose in these team fights. Well, maybe don't team fight. Maybe run a 1-3-1, 4-1. Right. 3-2, whatever, and if they can do that one more time, 10-0, both teams just pushing in their own base. That is the alternative, and if it works one more time, that is an inhib.
Exactly. I will say they've been doing the push several times, whether it was hard stuck in the bot lane or Fox and Flute, respectively. So definitely something that they're willing to play around, but as things get more pressurized, we're talking like the Dragon's going to be on that soul point every single time now. They want to be around that and play for it. The Baron, a huge point of contention here. They can't make that consistent risk without knowing that, well, say the team fight doesn't go as well as it did this last time and you don't have Crimvale preventing these backs. What's stopping them from turning and just taking Baron, right?
Yeah, I would, if I was on Degenerates, think that the best play here would be to just swap a Baron for a Drake. You can afford it. It's 3 more Drakes before Define is able to pick it up. Knowing that it will be soul point puts so much pressure on it. All of the wards, all of the positioning is going to be centered around the bottom side of the jungle. So as we see right now, there's not one ward in the top side of the jungle. This Baron is left completely unprotected. Gragas now basing. He does have teleport, but with how he's been playing so far, I think he's just going to come right back into grouping and not go into the top lane with only 40 seconds on the board. So it depends on how Degenerates want to play this, but if they just decide to push into that top side, they have any ward down on Drake, this could be a swap.
I will say that's a possibility, but in terms of the speed of collapse from Divine Ascension, they could take Dragon so quickly and then make that rotation on the Baron play off of the penetration that has come through for most of that spit. So it's a thought. But from what I'm seeing right now, it looks like they're going to be looking for the contention as much as possible, even though Obsidian has the pressure tenfold. Oh, that's a good route played into the casket for Crimvale, slowed out. So if they're trying to get that Pop Blossom, gets the triple stun, but not before the Onslaught Shadows with the fear into the bullet time comes through there. Not going to save the lives of Crimvale, and now 0-5 looking bad. Fox Zero goes deep with the Killer Instinct, finds the 1 kill, but is shut down. Baby Claps now picking up one at a time as Heartstuck Brother can't quite find it. It's going to be the full team ace for Divine Ascension Obsidian.
Well, that is an alternative to what I was predicting. That is what I was predicting the outcome would be if they decided to do that. That was even a pretty solid team fight. I do have to give that to Degenerates. Crimvale got a 3-person Pop Blossom, forced flash from Corki right off the bat out of that fight. We got some nice peel from Flute Loops, a nice little dive from Fox Zero, but the Misfortune and Leona skin look really similar, and I think what happened was Fox Zero went in thinking he was bursting down the Misfortune because they were on top of each other. But then Leona took a step forward, Misfortune took a step back and realized, oh, Misfortune's at full HP. It's the Leona that has 10%. Couldn't finish off the Leona before the stun came out. Once Fox Zero fell, they didn't really have any damage left, no barrels set up from Hardstuck, and they do hand that Drake over. Gold is now tied back up, so they are now technically at a loss, not just from team comp difference, but in gold now.
I will say additionally on top of all of that, Hardstuck brother, maybe a little late into the positioning there, coming straight from the base. He did not play off of a teleport in any way into that fight, as well as 05 here on this Elise. Pretty much getting ripped to shreds in the immediate central of the fight, wasn't able to really do much. And while I will give props to Grimvale for getting that triple pop blossom off, he was caught out to start things off, and that pop blossom was the last saving grace to just try to equalize that team fight out.
Yeah, I want to see how much damage, I wish I could see how much damage the difference was between Corki and Nico in that fight. Even getting the 3-person stun, it's on all 3 tanks of the team. Didn't get a pick on either. Corki's just sitting there front to back fighting the entire fight, doing so much damage. Like I was saying before, when you run this consistent collapse dive comp with these huge, consistent damage 80 carries, and your mid laners and Nico who helps with the pick, your junglers and Elise who helps with the pick, and you're going into that fight not with a pick, you're going to lose in damage.
Yes, sir. And now we got the 5 all set up once again. Teleport coming through from the back from Coltonson. Curious if he can find a pick off of this one. That's going to be the good double summon into the hook onto Divine X. But a great solar flare into the bullet time to get the double immediately there. Both those fighting through from that bullet time. Now Void chasing out. Doesn't even matter. They don't even have to chase out. Turn to Baron. Take your chops. Go for this one now. Granted, 05's up and Fox Zero is available as well.
05 is up with the 3-level difference in Smite. Level 12 Elise to level 15 Hecarim. I don't think there's any chance. I don't think Elise believes there's any chance. Just rotates into the bottom side of the jungle, and they go for a turret rush. I think Fox is going to try and get that turret and get out. No Thresh Lantern there to save, so Hardstuck is trying to peel, but ends up dying in response for this. It looks like Zephyr has disconnected from us, so Latin Trap is going in, but is getting absolutely obliterated by Fox Zero. Is now left out alone. Flash comes away from Void, but it doesn't matter. The beautifully placed Missile Barrage will secure that kill. Baron now on the side of Divine Ascension, picking up 3 kills on some very key players. Thresh left to defend mid alone. This is not looking good for them. Baron pushing down in the mid lane. They have to give up this turret, and Crimvale's not in a position to do anything about it. So unless they bleed out 1, maybe 2 inhibs here, it doesn't look like they have anything they can do but just regroup and wait for next Drake, which they haven't won the last 2 times. Yeah, Zephyr will be back in a minute. Hopefully, you'll be with me. In the meantime, I'll do my best to try and cast everything that happens, the action, and the beautiful, lovely color casting you know me for. But Coltonson just jungling away the bottom side, the top side, Corki jungling away the bottom side, getting vision everywhere. Dragon spawning in a minute, and the missed casket from Gragas doesn't secure that blue, gives it over to Thresh. Hey, why not?
Pay no attention
this is going to be
to
really
the man
risky.
Behind the curtain. Hi, Zephyr is disconnected. So I will take place of Zephyr for the meantime. I'm Finnick, I'm the producer. Just so Bubby doesn't have to be alone. Also, hi, Bubby.
Yeah, I was born into this world alone. I can cast in this world alone, but I will definitely appreciate any of the help I can get. Ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause for Finnick, our producer, and now my co-caster coming in, ready to play-by-play cast this next Drake fight, which should be the game, either the comeback that the comeback that Degenerates needs, or the final win Divine can squeak out to get this base finished off and win the match.
My lord, I wish I was able to hear all the lovely points that my color caster, or I guess play-by-play at this point, had said, but not really in my abilities.
And the man behind the curtain once again goes back behind the curtain. Enjoy these two.
My lord, 05.
Elise is in such a bad spot.
Crimvale's gonna play around it though, into the root with the Pop Blossom to get the triple. They find the kill on the Void, but there's the Onslaught Shadows to get the Fear of Fox. He's gonna use that cleanse and pull it out. Meanwhile, Baby Claps is just shredding through the rest of this team. Fox barely gets the kill onto Latin Trap there, but he's too low to pursue this any further. Now 05, poor positioning, now going to finally play out of his favor, going down. Gonna get the repel. Oh, just barely goes down there. My lord, that scared me with the repel. Now Baby Clap's pushing forward here. He's got the extra speed. Fox here looking low, slowed out from the bullet rain. Turns it around, tries to get the burst. He does! He gets the response burst from the chase. It is a 3 for 3, but Coltonsen's pushing out top.
I think this leaves Kaisa open to solo Drake. There's no way Leona can contest this right now.
Gosh, Coltonsen.
Yeah, the Infinity Edge from the Gangplank doing so much damage, does defend that one. Divine is sitting here trying to do something, but I don't think Drake is enough of an ally for Divine, and that will be Soul.
Now he turns his attention to Divine. I think he's going to find this kill as well here. He's got the W pass to play around, but Colson did come to his rescue, and now a triple collapse may be enabled here from Void. You know, Fox is quick. Fox is fast. He's fine, and there's a lantern to secure it.
Yeah, the Killer Instinct came back from Fox Zero, so if he did position against the wall, any of them got on him, he could auto attack, jump over the wall. So it was looking kind of grim for a second. I wasn't exactly sure if Fox would get out, but that was quite the turn. So I was going to say, before that whole thing expired, or it happened, whatever just happened on the screen happened, because all of that was crazy of a play. 05 just got in behind the lines, sat there in that bush for 30-45 seconds without being caught, swept everybody out, and ended up actually getting the flank position onto Void to pick him off at the start of the fight and win that. We then transitioned into a opposite position fight, front to back fighting, but Baby Claps came out ahead, and
that's a good hook in the vine. Wow, the burst on this Kaisa, taking out Divine. That's a huge point of engagement. Now Colson stunned through. There's the Killer Instinct, gonna use that slide to get away. The repel comes through. Great explosive casket. Now Void is available with the burst. They turn around with the bullet time, trying to chunk this out. Fox is now looking very low. We do see the locket come through, but Void with the missile barrage finds the snipe there, picks off 05. It's gonna be that 4-4 at this point. See if they can continue this fight. A little bit of hook, but no one's pressuring. No one's pressuring, Bubby.
No one's pressuring, but the pressure is on. That Corky missile barrage hits for 800 damage every third missile, so Elise is not tanky. She will fall to that. They are looking for anything they can.
That's a good hook into a Pop Blossom. They're using the Guidos now. Latins deep into the back line. We do see Baby Claps just rip through, get the response. Fox steps up there, but he has to flash to escape. The cast going to be pushing him further and further as the flash with the double into Void. Oh my gosh, Fox being the only one left alive. We do have 05 finally coming back up though.
Yeah, with Fox and 05, they're definitely going to be really, really risky going into winning, killing the Nexus off. Double inhib is free. They don't have any point of contest for this. Baron's on the board. Corky has more than enough damage, but Kai's trying to do something about it.
Yes, sir. Good stun with the cocoon there, but into the 4-man. Come on, 05. Not a chance.
Yeah, that is way too squishy of a spider. The bug splat comes through. That should be Baron. For Divine, it would be pretty unreasonable not to at least attempt it. Heckram's got the ghost. He's super, super fast. I mean, he is a pony after all. Got the dead man's plate. Just going to charge his way in there. Might finish Baron before he actually gets there. And they will.
Yeah, they do.
Oh.
Yes, I will give you as close, but like we discussed before, wait, there was no smite in that fight. Okay, I get.
There was no smite, so that cannon barrage was pretty close to taking that one. It hits hard. Yeah, I didn't know for a second. I was like, oh, is this it? But yeah, as much comeback potential as Degenerates Reformed has shown, how many fights they've played well, the picks they've been getting at the most crucial points of the match in the last 15 minutes, except Fox Zero's insane play to secure that Drake soul. They have been losing at every major objective.
This is true. So, and it plays a lot around the team fight comp that has finally come to full fruition here from Divine Ascension. And you pull back to your point about how it's this bursty window to play around, and really the only consistent DPS is Fox Zero. it makes everything stack up pretty rough here for Degenerates Reformed.
Yeah, it's not that the picks aren't working. It's more so that the picks are going on to the wrong people. Most of these hooks are hitting Hecarim and Gragas. Those aren't the champions you want to hit. And then especially if you land it and the rest of your team then follows up, you know, you're down Crimvale's snare, you're down Elise's stun, you're down Thresh Hook and Flay. What's there to prevent you from engaging? So when they land these hooks or they land these stuns or these snares from any of their three members, they need to not combo off of it when it's a Gragas who doesn't care, when it's a Hecarim who doesn't care. They need to just keep trying until they can hit that Quirky, until they can hit that Misfortune. Elder Soul is spawning in a minute. Red team's getting as much forward warding as they can, pushing in bot with 2 inhibs taken. So Degenerates is on a clock right now.
Grimvale taking a huge chunk out by that missile barrage. And like you said, on a clock definitely stated here. Those 2 inhibs are going to stack up, Bubby, and they're going to have to respond. And they push Fox and O5 back to do the do. And as a result, more than likely, we're going to see this 3rd inhib fall pretty shortly here because of that.
Oh. Yeah, it could come to game right here if they decide to go for this dive. Hecarim is fishing for it.
It's running out, but either way, 3rd inhib, there's nothing they can do. It's already gone, and they're just backing off to play off around that.
Yeah, with 3 inhibs, they're going to pick up this Elder. They can wait for Baron, use the Baron push for triple inhib Baron minions. That's basically unbeatable. You just let the minions win the game. They transform into Winions at that point in time. But they have to do something, and it looks like they're going for a desperation play against Coltonson.
But at this point, he's doing such a great job to put the pressure back, and that killer instinct paired with the missiles don't find it, but they do get the shutdown. But meanwhile, Crimvale is taken out, trying to look for some sort of a steal. So it's 1 kill to 1 kill, and that Mr. Mirage also down now from not finding it. This might just be the end here, Bubby.
Yeah, I would imagine even without Gragas, who does have teleport in a minute if they decide to wait, the damage and the poke is just so high that everybody's going to get bursted down. Flute Loops is going to fall in 2 seconds.
Into the Gale Force, and he can't even get the hook response. Now it's the 3 of them left available here, and the turrets are already down. Heartstuck's coming back to base after pushing that wave out as best he can. There's not much they can do. 1 dive from Latin. That's going to be it, bub.
Yeah, I don't think they need to dive. I think
they don't need to dive. They just take it. There's the onslaught shots. Flash from Divine X doesn't find the Zenith, but O5's looking bad. Too far forward there. They're not even going to find the kills, but they do anyways. Fox is gone. Heartstuck's gone. And your Nexus is next as well. Divine Ascension Obsidian turn around the early game and find themselves in the face of victory.
Yeah, your Nexus is Nexus. I see what you did there, Zephyr. I see. You got jokes.
Do that. You did that.
Yeah, I think really tying this entire series or match so far into one of the first points that you made is that we have Degenerates coming in as kind of the underdog into this series. You said that they have yet to play against an upper echelon team. They were going to play against FSU, but had to forfeit that whole day away. So now looking at this match, they look so promising at the beginning. They played a pit comp and they played it well, but a little bit less seasoned of a team, a little bit less experienced so far in this league playing at the lower echelon. This is kind of where that shows when you have this really good early game and then the enemy team is able to adapt. They're the higher echelon. In the middle of a game, Divine becomes a completely different Titan by 15, 20 minutes and continues evolving, continues growing throughout that match. It was almost like Degenerates Reformed went from playing one team to a whole different team 20 minutes into that game.
No, literally, we saw a completely different Divine Ascension as they approached the mid game. They were able to wrap themselves into it. And I will say, Degenerates Reformed played very well early. They managed to pick up a secured amount of objectives. And while Elise was in the best position as a jungler, she did add to a lot of those fights. And you got fed on the Nico, on the Kaiser. You got these carries into a position where they could definitely shine. But when the shots needed to be called and when these team fights really came to full fruition, Reform just didn't quite have it.
Yeah, we'll see if they do have it in game 2. Do they get their bans back in game 2?
have to check. They do not. Okay,
They do not get their bans. Okay, so they will go into game 2 without their first 3 bans once again, giving Divine Ascension now going to be blue side first pick without any bans available. That could be Seraphine, that could be Senna, that could be Udyr, it might just be Hecarim again. That's going to be pretty terrifying. And let's see if they can kind of reverse the momentum that Divine had back against them going into game 2, or if Divine will close this out as a solid 2-0.